Cybill Shepherd used to be a famous figure in Hollywood. A $1 million face with golden hair that gleams like the sun in the South. She rocked the film world with her first part. She appeared on the Golden Globe stage in the next years. She was referred to as a star born to shine more than once. Later though, she would be consumed by that very attention. Cybill Shepherd was pulled from the pinnacle of stardom to the brink of rejection by passionate but scandalous relationships, a startling connection with a married director, and encounters with the television industry's covert power structure. She was left to deal with something no screenplay could possibly prepare her for once the ovation had subsided. Deadly skin cancer, excruciating suffering that seemed unfathomable, and the loneliness of a once famous person who can't be forgiven. What caused a star to get to the top and then fall? Why did Cybill decide to stop hiding anything after sharing her honest, emotional, and unreserved experience in her biography, Cybill Disobedience? You're going to find out why she decided to share everything now. Born on February 18, 1950, Cybill Lynn Shepherd grew up in the calm yet traditional city of Memphis, Tennessee. She came from a middle-class background. Her mother, Patty, was a stay-at-home mom, while her father, William Shepherd, had a small company. She had a younger brother named William and an older sister named Terry, making her the middle child in a family of 3. Her unusual yet distinctive name, Cybill, was a mix of her father's name Bill and her grandfather's name C. Hollywood would eventually remember that name forever. Cybill was noticeable from an early age. She was tough to ignore because of her expressive eyes, light complexion, and blonde hair. However, it was her personality rather than her beauty that people recalled most. She was different from the usual Southern girls of her era. While she was a student at East High School, she did not wait to be sought after. She pursued people she loved. She even once skipped class to try out for a modeling job, which, if discovered, may have resulted in her suspension. She didn't care though. Life was supposed to stand out for Cybill. She competed in the Miss Teenage Memphis pageant in 1966 when she was 16 years old. She went on to represent the city at Miss Teenage America after winning the title. Despite not making the final cut, she received the modest but significant honor of Miss Congeniality. It demonstrated that there was something really endearing about her that went beyond her appearance. Although it occasionally left her open to abuse, that trait will eventually help her succeed. At a young age, Cybill started modeling in addition to her education. She was named Model of the Year at the age of 18. She went from being a Memphis high school student to being featured on the cover of Glamour magazine and as the face of L'Oreal. Her entire life was altered by just one picture. While standing in a grocery store checkout line one day, director Peter Bogdanovich, who was then searching for a female lead for a movie, noticed Cybill's face on a magazine cover. He immediately contacted her agency and said, "Who is this girl?" Cybill received an invitation to try out for the Last Picture Show a few weeks later. She was cast. This was both her debut on-screen appearance and the first time her personal life was made public. It was Cybill who left Memphis without someone to guide her. Through initiative, an unapologetic demeanor, and an unwillingness to lead a substandard life, she acquired everything on her own. She would go on to become one of Hollywood's most feared and revered ladies because of that very quality. Cybill Shepherd had a memorable start in the film industry. In 1971, she was chosen by director Peter Bogdanovich to play J.C. Farrow in the iconic black-and-white movie The Last Picture Show, which was remarkably daring for its day. Sensitive subjects, including sexuality, loneliness, and the silent divisions of young people in West Texas, were all explored in the film. Cybill had a now famous nude scene while portraying a stunning but ruthless and cunning young lady, exposing one's body and emotions while undressing in a living room behind a clear glass partition. She was just 21. Despite having no professional training or acting experience, Cybill was able to connect with a natural and vital aspect of filmmaking: sheer presence. An incredible accomplishment for a model in her debut film role was that she was nominated for her first Golden Globe right away in the New Star of the Year category. But Cybill wasn't the only one who was brilliant. So did the movie. The most recent film won 2 Oscars and was nominated for 8, including Best Picture. It is frequently cited as one of the best American films ever made, and continues to be one of the key pieces of 1970s American cinema. For Cybill Shepherd, playing J.C. Farrow was more than simply her first appearance. It served as a huge springboard for her career in movies. Hollywood no longer viewed her as a model-turned-actress after that performance. They began referring to her as a phenomenon. More significantly, she brought recognition to the whole sector. Not all forms of beauty are under our control. She went on to play important parts in The Heartbreak Kid 1972 and Taxi Driver 1976 after The Last Picture Show. Despite having little on-screen time, her character Betsy, who had a cold yet vulnerable look, became the focus of both Travis Bickle's and the audience's Robert De Niro obsession in Taxi Driver. However, Cybill didn't end with the movie. Since she was a teenager, music had always been a silent part of her. She followed her second goal of being a singer after she had made a name for herself in Hollywood. Cybill Does It, her first studio album, was released in 1974 to Cole Porter, a selection of timeless jazz songs performed with tenderness, passion, and a distinct feminine touch. Cybill opted for the more difficult route of classic jazz, where skill could not conceal a lack of emotion. Rather than pursuing popular music, she didn't turn into a diva in music. For those who listened with their hearts, she sang. She went on to release Mad About the Boy 1990, Cybill Gets Better 1992, and At Long Last Love. Cybill Shepherd sings Cole Porter 2006 in the ensuing years. Outside of the studio, Cybill played in lounges, jazz clubs, and small cultural gatherings as a genuine musician, not to sell tickets. Although her voice lacked technical explosiveness, it possessed an unadulterated appeal and emotional honesty that is uncommon among big-name celebrities. She pursued music into television as well. She skillfully incorporated her passion of music into her role in the comedy Cybill, which ran from 1995 until 1998. Viewers were repeatedly taken aback when Cybill Sheridan would switch between sarcasm and song, singing passionately in the middle of ordinary moments as though to convey that music remained her haven despite the chaos. However, Cybill decided to put her career on hold in order to become a mother, even though her acting and singing were flourishing at the time. Clementine Ford, her first daughter, was born in the late 1970s. I could have more parts, but I would never have that moment with my daughter again, Cybill once said in an interview. She returned to the small screen with cameos in shows like Fantasy Island in 1977, after taking some time off to raise her family. Cybill had changed by then. She was a familiar yet elusive character that people looked forward to seeing every week instead of the exciting newcomer. Cybill Shepherd's career took a dramatic turn in 1985 when she accepted a job that was completely different from anything she had ever played. A bankrupt former model named Maddie Hayes is compelled to manage an eccentric detective firm with her erratic companion, David Addison. Bruce Willis portrayed the role. The program was ABC's romantic comedic detective series Moonlighting. Moonlighting gained popularity thanks to its incisive screenplays, fast-paced language evocative of stage plays, and a rhythm that combined romance and humor. However, the electrifying chemistry between Cybill Shepherd and Bruce Willis, a tension as taut as a violin string and simultaneously funny, sensual, and delicate, was what held audiences' attention. They did more than simply click on the screen. Their lively energy and organic back and forth, which no acting training could possibly teach, enhanced the entire performance. In 1986 and 1987, Cybill won 2 Golden Globes for Best Actress in a Television Series, Musical or Comedy, for her portrayal of Maddie Hayes. She was referred to as the golden face of prime-time television by the media at the time. Maddie and David were listed as one of the decade's iconic TV couples by TV Guide. By turning a genre series into a subject covered in screenwriting schools, Moonlighting also improved the standing of American television in general. Some episodes defied all expectations. One was a musical, another was a noir movie, and in some characters spoke straight to the audience. The driving force behind this idea was Cybill. She was both a symbol of beauty and a strong, self-reliant woman who didn't rely on men. Producers have freely acknowledged in several interviews that Moonlighting would not have developed its own identity without Cybill. In addition to starring, she contributed to the development of the show's distinctive quick-witted and multi-layered speech, which would go on to inspire many others. Despite Moonlighting's popularity on television, tensions started to build behind the scenes. The conflict became more apparent between Cybill Shepherd and Bruce Willis, the duo that gave the program its reputation. What started off as little arguments escalated into open altercations. They were both stubborn, strong-willed, and unwilling to compromise. The program's co-star, Curtis Armstrong, claimed in his biography that although Bruce was hailed as laid-back and a guy's guy, both were equally depleted by the demanding atmosphere of the show. In an interview years later, Cybill said quite clearly that a woman is referred to be a diva when she speaks out, whereas a guy is deemed decisive when he yells. The media blamed Cybill for the show's waning momentum, despite the fact that she was also expecting twins around this period, which caused a delay in production. Bruce Willis's schedule and objectives changed as a result of his rise to fame with the Die Hard franchise. Because they could hardly look at one another off-screen, they filmed together less frequently, and the love intensity on screen started to wane. The latter seasons were the tipping point, when the environment of writing and working became oppressive. Moonlighting was formally discontinued in 1989 after being praised as a creative television sensation. From the outside, it appeared like Cybill had made the leap from movie to television, achieved unprecedented success, and taken home consecutive Golden Globes. However, she was battling pressure, gender prejudice, and the inevitable conflicts with a co-star behind the scenes. A person who was formerly the ideal on-screen companion suddenly found themselves in the same frame as a stranger. "I don't regret the tensions on Moonlighting," she previously remarked. "The screen wouldn't have seemed so real without them." However, the cost was exorbitant, and one thing became quite evident to Cybill Shepherd after Moonlighting. Every achievement has a shadow. The silhouette behind a brighter illumination is darker. Cybill Shepherd made a comeback to television in 1995 with a program named for her, and she was in complete creative charge this time. Cybill was a sitcom about Cybill Sheridan, a middle-aged Hollywood actress who was once relatively renowned. She now juggles mother-in-law role-casting calls, parenting her children, and battling a profession that is becoming more and more fixated on young people. According to Cybill herself, the persona was just expressing all I had previously kept to myself. It was a reaction from a lady who was previously praised for her attractiveness, but was later ignored when her appearance waned. Shepherd not only starred in the series, but also co-produced it, helped write the scripts, and guided the show's overall tone and message. And she won. Because Cybill expressed things that women over 40 had never been permitted to speak on American television, it became an immediate sensation. About divorced husbands, midlife sexuality, the double standards of Hollywood, being supplanted by younger actresses, being a single mother, and the unsaid loneliness of loneliness. Critics called her that because it was a form of profound humor that was reminiscent of Lucille Ball with a feminist twist. Lucille Ball in the 90s. Cybill received her third Golden Globe for the program, and Christine Baranski, her co-star, took up the Best Supporting Actress honor. During its first 3 seasons, Cybill was a regular among CBS's top 20 most-watched shows and garnered 12 Emmy nominations. Cybill had an influence on culture, in addition to its financial success. It cleared the path for following shows like Big Little Lies, Grace and Frankie, and The Good Wife, where older women were positioned at the heart of the narrative, rather than on the periphery. According to Christine Baranski, Cybill disclosed in a 2018 interview with SiriusXM that the program was abruptly cancelled because she turned down a sexual approach from Lee Moonves, the influential CBO of CBS at the time. Moonves drank at a private meal and offered to drive her home. She said no, firmly but courteously. Soon after, in defiance of the existing contract, he abruptly ordered the show's termination, made irrational demands, and started meddling with its substance. Moonves was forced to leave after being accused of sexual misconduct by many women years later. After being disregarded at first, Cybill's narrative came to be recognized as a poignant illustration of the hierarchies of power that had repressed women in Hollywood for many years. Cybill Shepherd never waited for an apology, but she also never got one. She once stated in a public speech that perhaps Cybill might have survived a few more seasons if I had said yes that evening. However, I wasn't here to exchange my honor for a few more comedy episodes. Even though her television career peaked in 1985 and 1995, Cybill Shepherd's career was not limited to those years. She had already established a remarkable cinematic career before she rose to prominence as primetime's queen in the 1980s. Her performances in The Heartbreak Kid 1972 and Taxi Driver 1976 demonstrated that she was more than simply a gorgeous face. She was an actor who could control her emotions and project coldness on screen with accuracy. After her spectacular debut in The Last Picture Show, she declared her value at that time, a message that Cybill hadn't only been fortunate to receive. She made a discreet comeback to television in the early 1980s with guest appearances, most notably in Fantasy Island in 1983, after taking a break to give baby. It wasn't a victorious return, but rather a subdued prelude to the Moonlighting revolution 2 years later. Simultaneously, Cybill started a new journey: music. Despite not being a commercial success, her 1974 debut jazz album showed a different side of her that was kind, tenacious, and unaffected by fads. Cybill Shepherd continued even after her cancellation. She persisted in performing, not always in the lead, but enough to have an impact, particularly in The Lev Word, when she portrayed a mother standing by her lesbian daughter. She frequently made cameo appearances on Psych, Criminal Minds, and No Ordinary Family during the 2000s. She concurrently released further jazz albums such as At Long Last Love 2006 and Cybill Gets Better 1992, never giving in to mass-market formulae, always improved. When considering her whole journey, it is evident that Cybill was not characterized by a single event. Every chapter of her work, whether loud or quiet, large or modest, was a genuine piece of her tenacity. In her own manner, she gleamed after burning and shining. Cybill Shepherd was a teenage model attempting to make a name for herself in the entertainment business prior to her rise to fame with The Last Picture Show. She wrote about her years studying anthropology and art in New York, and coming to the conclusion that the stigma associated with nudity was a cultural construct in her book Cybill Disobedience. This conviction had a big impact on one of her biggest life choices, taking the part of JC in The Last Picture Show, which included a contentious nude scene. She was seeing a rich restaurateur named John Bruno at the time, who was a great chef and a Ferrari enthusiast. However, he declared plainly, "I'll never marry you if you do that scene," after finding out that Cybill would be doing a naked scene. Soon after, they split up. Following her passion and dealing with the fallout was the start of a pattern in Cybill's relationships. Cybill Shepherd and Jeff Bridges had their first close relationship in the acting industry on the set of The Last Picture Show. She described him as a polite, friendly, and likable co-star, and the two soon started hanging out together after work. It was more than a professional connection, but there was no official commitment. Just as she was entering the strange world of Hollywood, she experienced her first genuine sense of connection. Jeff, however, had to depart for a week in order to attend training for military reserves. Director Peter Bogdanovich, who was married to Polly Platt and then expecting their second child, filled in during that brief absence. "I'm going, Jeff," he said. "I'm always lonely," Cybill said simply. Bogdanovich was an older, strong and sophisticated director, and she didn't deny her attraction to him. Jeff was informed everything by Cybill when he got back. Bridges remained calm. "Be careful," he replied quietly. However, Cybill appeared to realize in that silence that things had changed and that a decision had been taken that was irrevocable. She and Bogdanovich were together for 8 years. They were Hollywood's most scandalous pair, living together, making movies together, and navigating the industry as a golden couple. After Bogdanovich abandoned his wife and kids, Cybill was instantly known as the home wrecker, a reputation she would bear for the ensuing 10 years. However, the connection was everything from straightforward. They wounded each other, even though they loved each other. Bogdanovich had an affair while in Singapore filming Saint Jack. Cybill came by, was well aware of what was going on, but said nothing. Conversely, she also lacked faithfulness. She listed them candidly in her memoir, A Waiter, a Worker, and Charles Grodin, her co-star. She mentioned that her meeting with Grodin ended in the morning. Cybill appeared to have it all to outsiders: fame, a rising career, and a renowned director as a collaborator, but there was always an emptiness inside. "I don't think I was cheating on Peter," she wrote at one point. "How is it possible to be unfaithful to someone you never truly had?" Her relationship with Bogdanovich was a mixture of freedom and incarceration, desire and agony, the source of loneliness, and the spark of greatness. In addition to making Cybill a household name, it also had the most lasting impact on her life and profession for years to come. Cybill spent a night with Elvis Presley upon the breakup of her romance with Bogdanovich. She said that he was delicious like sugar and sweat, unlike other celebrities' poor fragrance. Even though it only occurred once, it had a profound effect. According to Cybill, Elvis had rather conservative opinions regarding sex, but later changed his mind. Nevertheless, she writes, Cybill dated Don Johnson while filming The Long Hot Summer. During that time, we were on the porch for maybe a moment before rushing to my bed, she remembered. However, Johnson slept with a hairstylist on set, after a performance that she likened to devouring candy when you're starving. It was quick, intense, and finished in 5 minutes. Cybill had a brief, unresolved affair with Bruce Willis while filming Moonlighting. There was no denying their chemistry. They even had a kiss off-screen, but it ended there. She said that Willis would jam a huge camel tongue into my mouth while we were kissing. In 1978, Cybill broke free from short-lived relationships by marrying David Ford, whom she had met while still seeing Bogdanovich. In 1979, they welcomed a daughter, Clementine. The adultery of Ford caused the marriage to collapse in 1982. Ford and Bogdanovich once met at a dentist office, and after their interaction, Bogdanovich threw a crystal ashtray at Ford. Cybill was awarded full custody of their kid during the divorce, while Ford only received $15,000. Later, in 1987, while she was expecting twins, she wed chiropractor Bruce Oppenheim. During the Moonlighting filming, they met while she was receiving treatment for back discomfort. She went straight back to work after the wedding. No honeymoon took place. When the twins were just a year old, the marriage terminated a few years later. Cybill resided with musician Robert Martin, who worked on the Cybill sitcom from 1994 until 1998. The partnership, according to her, is an unofficial marriage. Differences in philosophy and politics ultimately caused them to part ways. Cybill, a vocal feminist and progressive, had beliefs Martin couldn't agree with. Cybill declared her engagement to Andrei Nikolajevic, a Serbian jeweler who is now a therapist, in 2012. They never got hitched. Cybill reverted to her Christian beliefs following the split. She remarked, "I think I had a broken heart." Additionally, a portion of it refused to recover. "At that point I looked to Jesus." Cybill Shepherd was once a lady who fell in love without question, but she had to go through relationships that left her scarred. However, such encounters also molded a strong, multifaceted woman, always said what many others were afraid to consider. Despite criticism, controversies, and the expense, Cybill Shepherd lived as though love were the only thing that was worthwhile. Can love, however, be only an emotion, or do morality and reason also need to be taken into consideration? Would you follow your instincts or the opinions of others when faced with a choice between instinct and consequences? Despite her turbulent background, Cybill Shepherd was always a passionately intuitive mother. She reared 3 children alone after 2 unsuccessful marriages. She had twins Ariel and Cyrus with her second husband, Bruce Oppenheim, and a daughter named Clementine with David Ford. Motherhood served as her compass for many years during a tumultuous profession and internal conflict. As Cybill once remarked, "Being a mother is the one thing I couldn't fake, but acting can be a performance." She released her memoir, Cybill Disobedience, in 2000 when her life reached a more subdued stage. Her honesty, rawness, and refusal to hold back astounded readers. She described every connection in it, including one-night experiences, Elvis Presley, and Peter Bogdanovich, with all of the resentment, grief, and careless youth. Although the book became a blockbuster and a means of personal emancipation, the press labeled her a scary nymphomaniac. "I was a very, very bad girl, but I'm not sorry," she wrote. "I know I'm not alone, and I lived in accordance with the times I grew up in." Nevertheless, she was unprepared for the series of losses that followed by her wild years. Her mother, who was the center of her life, died in 2012, after her father died in 2001, and her sister Terry died in 2009. Cybill was sent into a tailspin by the string of losses in such a short period of time. "Before realizing that I was as weak as everyone else, I believed I was unbeatable. The only thing that saved her, her kids. They gave her the motivation to get up and continue living, even in the absence of fame." She went through a different type of turning point in 2014, one that was surrounded by gentle joy. She has a granddaughter. Eliza Ladinson, the creator of the fashion label Sloan & Tate, married her daughter, Ariel. Cybill wasn't only at the wedding, which was full of freedom and joy. She made a toast with a quip that made everyone in the room chuckle. She said, "I've never seen love this pure," as she gave her daughter-in-law a hug. As a mother and grandmother, Cybill Shepherd enjoyed the freedom she had always strived for, transforming from a lady formerly viewed as a symbol of defiance, the ability to fall, lose and still get back up after falling in love. At her daughter's wedding, she smiled. Despite being renowned for her perfect complexion, blonde hair, blue eyes and timeless beauty, Cybill Shepherd was not immune to the harsh hardships of aging and disease. She received a diagnosis of dermatofibrosarcoma protuberans, an uncommon and severe kind of skin cancer, in 2001. Although she did not disclose the nature of her therapy, the tumor was discovered on her back. In 2004, when she began her third year of remission, she finally spoke up. "It completely transforms your life," she said the Irish Examiner. "If I survive past year 3, I won't have cancer in January." She has since continued to receive screenings, all of which have been negative. That wasn't all though. Cybill also suffered from irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, for 20 years without receiving a diagnosis. The doctor suggested that I was imagining my discomfort when I informed him about it. She claimed that they told her it was all in her brain. She suffered from persistent constipation, excruciating cramps, and bloating for 20 years. She was so erratic that she tried on many different clothes every day, not knowing how bloated her body would get. The issue was only accurately diagnosed once a new physician was found. In order to raise awareness of IBS with constipation, particularly among women, Cybill has now joined the Great Women campaign as a spokeswoman. She boldly discussed her tale on TV and at medical gatherings. "I once asked a group of strangers I met at a party, 'How is menopause treating you right away?' I wasn't embarrassed, but everyone froze. These are the topics we must discuss." Her unexpected abdominal attack in 2007 was the tipping moment. When Cybill fell, she scrambled on her hands down the steps and called for assistance. "I truly believed I was going to die in the ambulance," she claimed. "I sensed my spirit departing from my body." She spent months recuperating from 4 stomach surgery. "It's too late to start lying about my age at 55, Cybill added. She had never lived more authentically, no longer avoiding the camera or looking stunning on red carpets. Still, it was definitely Cybill Shepherd, a lady who endured suffering, bore the scars of celebrity, and still dared to say what no one else dared. "At this age I've learned to say yes more, to joy, to new things, even to risk," she once remarked. She doesn't curate a picture of inspiration or rebirth on social media. Rather, she shares images of her grandson along with brief observations, such as "I used to be an icon. I'm a survivor now." She often takes part in women's health initiatives and talks candidly about her long-term fight with skin cancer since 2001, her near-fatal stomach agony in 2007, and her 2-decade misdiagnosed with IBS. It is easy to see. Cybill Shepherd doesn't need anybody to keep her. But Hollywood no longer wants to retain her. She has made the decision to live an unrestrained, unpretentious, and unrelentingly honest life that is true to who she is. Even though Cybill Shepherd is 75 years old and no longer performs frequently or walks the red carpet, she hasn't vanished. She's merely decided to live a different life, one that is peaceful, modest, and unencumbered by the industry that once helped her, but then attempted to drown her. She lives alone in a modest home in Encino, California, which is peaceful enough for her to read, write, and enjoy jazz music. Even though she isn't as healthy as she once was, She still goes for morning walks with her helper and is often seen at nearby shops. She didn't try to disguise her age or use cosmetics. She made a silent statement in February 2025, when she unexpectedly returned to the stage to sing in a program called Queen of the Lucky Club at Catalina Jazz Club. She continues to sing and engage with her audience in ways that suit her. Although Cybill no longer accepts new scripts, she continues to appear at rare occasions, including the 40th anniversary of Moonlighting in early 2025, to remind people that television once provided women with an authentic and uncensored voice, rather than to revel in nostalgia. Cybill Shepherd was too free to be subdued, too opinionated to be at ease, and too gorgeous to be disregarded. She believed that independence was the only genuine way to be happy, thus she never concealed her scandalous relationships or conformed. From the fearless teenager in The Last Picture Show to the dominant woman in primetime on Moonlighting, Cybill enjoyed life to the fullest in both cinema and television, and always agreed to pay the associated cost. She has discovered what is really important in her life at this time. Hollywood doesn't have to remember me. All I have to do is live openly. If it meant jeopardizing your reputation and profession, like Cybill did, would you dare to live a truthful life, love without fear, and make mistakes? Please share your opinions in the comments section below. Please like, subscribe, and share this video if you think this story should be heard. I'll see you in the one, but plenty to demonstrate that certain imprints endure despite the lack of publicity. Cybill was never only a former beauty idol to those who actually understood her, such as Tippi Hedren and Dakota Johnson. She was a lady who had made errors and lost her path, but she never lost her identity. She didn't run away from failure or conceal her background. Knowing that she had nothing left to lose except herself, she proceeded with the bravery of a person. Cybill decided to give in locations where no cameras were rolling, despite the fact that her profession wasn't perfect. In the same way that she fought disease in silence, without fanfare, but with purpose, she silently donated to charities, sponsored programs for children with burn injuries, and raised money for her mother's Shambhala Animal Preserve. She also dabbled in producing, joining Antonio Banderas to co-found Green Moon Productions. Although the business didn't create much of a stir, she didn't see it as a failure. In a career characterized by being directed rather than directing, she had long yearned for creative authority, and this was a real attempt to assert it. Oddly enough, Cybill is also known for her extraordinary fortitude. She was nominated for and even won 7 Golden Raspberry Awards. She didn't refute it or become upset. She accepted it as a fact of life in show business. You have to put up with the flops if you want to play leads. Like her, no one else bore failure on their back and continued on. It is also a form of strength. Even while she may not be a perfect example for everyone, Cybill Shepherd is a figure that those who have failed, committed errors, or been shunned can relate to. Even if it takes a whole lifetime to demonstrate it, living authentically still important.